This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of DUstin Hoffman and Riley Smith. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's DUstin Hoffman.
Well, good day, everybody, and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm DUstin Hoffman. Today is Tuesday, July the 12th, 2022. We thank you so much for coming along. Coming up here a little bit later in the program, I was downtown in Des Moines at the Iowa Utility Board meeting, where they got to hear from people who are concerned about the future of CO2 pipelines in the state. We also have a check of your ag weather outlook, but first, let's run down those markets. It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net. Well, we're at the end of the trading day, and of course, we had the WASDE report as well today, and we're talking with Matt Bennett of agmarket.net. Matt, it's been an interesting day. What did we see after that report came out?
Well, my best advice to people whenever they were wondering what the markets were doing, I just told them, don't look at the screen and walk away. Unfortunately, we're coming into the report on the overnight markets. There's a lot of fear and skepticism about what's going on in China, COVID lockdowns, if you will, a lot of questions and concerns as far as demand goes. And so we actually came into the report with 30 cent losses on corn and beans. I'll tell you what, the report was not negative. I mean, you could say it was mildly negative. You actually increased old crop carry out on corn, just a shade over $1.5 billion, took new crop up, but bottom line is you're still looking at the same type of tight scenario, 10% stocks to use for corn, 200 million bushel carryouts for soybeans. And so extremely tight situation. But you close the corn market down 40 and close the bean market down 60. So obviously there are folks selling the daylights out of these commodities. A lot of it has to do with the fact that crude oil is trading $7, $8, $9 lower at times today. And so definitely a lot of outside market influences along with extremely strong dollar here lately that are really providing stiff headwinds for these markets.
And of course, now with the report in the rear view, we turn our attention right back to the weather scenario. And right now our temperatures aren't too bad here in central Iowa, normal summer weather. But the problem is we're not looking for any rain anytime soon. And that's going to make some problems coming into this pollination part.
There's no question about it. So right now we've got pollination going on in parts of the United States where people were able to get rolling like in that April 20th time frame. It's a very limited amount of corn, but there's some pollinating. Give me a lot of corn pollinated, probably most of it within the next 2 weeks across the Corn Belt. Most of your forecasts right now are for hot and dry, especially when you get west of the Mississippi. Now, I think parts of northern Iowa are supposed to get some rain. Illinois is supposed to get some rain. And as you move east, it looks like many of those areas are going to be blessed with more rainfall. Unfortunately, some of those went from famine to feast. And the feast is going to provide some flooding concerns. And so this time of year, most people would rather have flooding concerns than drought concerns, if we're going to be quite honest about it. But you got to be aware that the weather is going to be throwing a lot of monkey wrenches in as we move on. Now, I've got to think that if you stay hot and dry, this corn market is going to stabilize for sure. Most forecasts are calling for a brutal August right now. I know we don't know what the weather's going to do 3 days from now sometimes. But if you have a brutal August weather type pattern, I'll tell you what, it's going to be really hard to really kill this bean market. Now, with that being said, you look at the markets today, horrible day, and you still close the corn market pretty close to the spring insurance price, $5.86. You close the bean market at $13.40 on November beans. That's still a really strong price. So tough day, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not the end of the world.
So what about on the livestock side of things? How did those markets trade today, cattle and hogs?
I'll tell you what, if you wanted something good to look at, feeder cattle. And why are feeder cattle so strong? I mean, you look, for instance, just at your August contract on feeders, 470 higher, set 4.25 or 412. Fats didn't do near as much, but they were up, not even quite $1, but they were stronger on the day. Whereas hogs, for the most part, were steady to a little bit stronger. What's going on? Obviously, feed costs. As feed costs go lower and numbers on cattle aren't overwhelmingly large, you're certainly going to have some strength in these cattle markets. And so I felt all along that if you raise a normal type crop and you see feed costs mitigate somewhat, that cattle were going to be extremely good property. I still feel that way.
All right. So looking forward now, again, like you said, weather market, anything else outside market influence or any reports coming up that we need to be thinking about as well in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about any reports. We're going to want to watch your crop ratings, of course. You get later in the year, crop ratings are a little more important. I still don't like them too much. I mean, I think there's, it's not great correlation. If one year 60% good to excellent, and the next year 60% good to excellent, sometimes those don't correlate to the same yield or even close. But, you're going to want to kind of keep an eye on there, but you got to keep an eye on Mother Nature, first of all. Second of all, what's going on globally in the macro environment? Is China going to continue to, in my opinion, do things that a lot of folks in the rest of the world haven't really kept doing, which, zero tolerance on COVID seems to be, as everyone else has adapted, maybe not quite the best path, but that's the path they're taking. And it's certainly going to have a strong impact upon energy, upon the entire macro market. So watch the energy markets, watch the dollar, and then just hope that we can kind of stabilize these markets. Now, if the weather provides you opportunity in another rally, like we've just seen over the last few days before today, by all means, take advantage of it.
All right. Well, Matt, we had a lot of great information as always. If people want to talk strategies, look at how they can take advantage of the situation they're in, how do they get in touch with agmarket.net?
Yep, just right there, agmarket.net. You go to agmarket.app on the App Store or on the web. Either one of those places, you can get a hold of our contact info, research, and some of the technology that we provide for producers to be able to do things like figure your break even and return on investment and whatnot.
All right, Matt. Well, thanks so much for the insight, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, bud. That
again was Matt Bennett of agmarket.net. Let's take a look at how those market numbers closed, courtesy of the folks at Bar Chart. September corn was down 43 cents at $5.94 even. December down 42.5 at $5.86.5. August soybeans down 53 3/4 at $14.68 1/4. November down 62 cents at $13.43 even. Soy meal was down $8.10 at $4.24.80. Soy oil down $3.61 at $60.11. September Chicago wheat down 42 1/4 at $8.14 1/4. Minneapolis wheat down 45 at $9.18 3/4. Kansas wheat down 47.5 at $8.67 3/4. September oats down 28 at $4.63 1/4. October live cattle up 85 cents at $141.27. August feeders up $4.70 at $179.57. July lean hogs up 45 cents at $113.60. Pork cutouts up $1.50 at $114.80. Class 3 milk was 7 cents lower at $22.67. And that's been our ag market recap. We're going to take a short break and hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, earlier today, I was down at the Iowa Utilities Board for their monthly meeting, and they got to hear an earful from constituents that are concerned about the future of CO2 sequestration pipelines in the state. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to AM/PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. Earlier today, the Iowa Utilities Board met for their July meeting and got to hear from concerned citizens about the CO2 pipelines that are proposed to crisscross the state. Well, on Tuesday, the Iowa Utilities Board held their regular meeting, and it was attended by over 40 farmers, environmentalists, and stakeholders who came to voice their concerns about the proposed carbon dioxide sequestration pipelines that are proposed to go across the state. People are concerned about any possible use of eminent domain and any potential threat to the environment and to the soil quality in Iowa. Jessica Mazur is the Conservation Program Coordinator for the Sierra Club Iowa chapter, and she talks about why it was important to have their voices heard at the Iowa Utilities Board.
We are here at the Iowa Utilities Board meeting today because 3 carbon pipelines are being proposed across the state, and it's all loss for Iowans and rewards for the people who profit from these pipelines. These will damage our land. They're an abuse of eminent domain. It's a bad use of our public money, and it's not a solution to climate change. And Iowans are coming together, whether we're Republicans or Democrats, farmers, rural, urban, we're all coming together because this is wrong for Iowa. And so we're here to tell the Iowa Utilities Board that we don't want these carbon pipelines, and it's time to send them packing.
So what is it about the pipelines that is going to damage the environment? What's the concern you're bringing?
Well, carbon pipelines are different than the traditional pipelines we're used to. The carbon pipelines are going to be filled with carbon dioxide, but it's not just the gas that we're used to. It's in the air. It's a industrial form. It's highly concentrated, and they actually have to pressurize it from a gas to a liquid just to be able to pipe it somewhere. So we're talking about a substance that's under about 2,200 psi. And when there's a rupture, we've seen in Satartia, Mississippi, there was a rupture in 2020. There's been test ruptures in Europe. We know these are explosive events. And the CO2 is heavier than air, so it will settle on the ground in low-lying areas, and it will displace the oxygen. So if you are in the cloud, you can't breathe, your car's not going to work because your car requires oxygen to drive. And we know that that cloud can spread 1,300 feet in under 4 minutes horizontally. So it's incredibly dangerous, especially when we're talking about rural areas that have volunteer EMS services. It's not a good thing for us, but these pipeline companies and their owners and investors are going to make a ton of money, and we, the taxpayers, we're the ones paying for it.
Richard McCain is an Emmett County farmer, and he talks about the concerns he has when they come in to put the pipeline in across some of his land.
One, we're in the prairie pothole region of northern Iowa, and drainage is our lifeblood up there. This will just totally destroy it. In my case, they will be going through someplace between 1.25 miles and 1.5 miles of our farm. And the damage, I farmed and was a drainage contractor for years and years. I've put in a lot of tile. Our farm is completely pattern tiled, all 900 plus acres of it. And when you push a trench through, that will settle over years, then your tile doesn't work, and then these companies say, well, that's your problem, we fixed it once. So then we're stuck with thousands and thousands of dollars of repair. Another thing is they say that this is for public good, for eminent domain. You don't build competing superhighways. We have one pipeline headed in one direction, another pipeline in another direction. And then they say that that's for the public good. They have told the Utilities Board that they want to have a permit to sequester. But then they came to our Emmett County Board of Supervisors a couple weeks ago and told them that they were going to build an offload facility at Hartley. Well, if they're building an offload facility, they're not sequestering it. So they tell people what they think they want to hear.
Andrew Alexander is a Fremont County farmer who said that his family farm was part of eminent domain procedures when the Dakota Access Pipeline was coming through, and now they're afraid it will happen again. He added that there's already been long-lasting damage to the soil that Dakota Access Pipeline dug up.
So that process was kind of a one-sided process when they came through with eminent domain. They tried to work with the landowners, but they had it in place what they were going to do. And that's basically what they did. There were a lot of promises that weren't kept with eminent domain, such as we're going to replace your topsoil, we're going to take care of your crops afterwards. They actually mixed the subsoil with the topsoil when they put it back in. We've seen that through the crops. If you fly a drone over the crops, you can see exactly where the pipeline is, and we're 7 years later in terms of that. So, we kind of expect the same thing to happen with this pipeline. There's been a lot of promises, but there's really no follow-through.
The board heard impassioned testimony from farmers and landowners and stakeholders and even members of boards of supervisors that were against this project.
Members of the board, as I said, my name is John Green. I'm a member of the Johnson County Board of Supervisors. We have presently submitted 2 letters of objection to dockets HLP 2021-1, HLP 2021-3, HLP-2022-2. I will not rehash those remarks here. Instead, I just want to acknowledge this process is a sham. Its outcome is preordained. What is not yet known is how regular Iowans will react to this egregious abuse of the Iowa Code and the Iowa Constitution. I'm here this morning to ensure that the record will reflect that these CO2 pipelines are nothing more than greenwashing and grift. There will be no public benefit. Indeed, the results of these pipelines will be the transfer of public goods to private gain, namely this board's political benefactors. There is another unintended consequence. The abuses of this process is catalyzing an unlikely alliance of opposition. It is my intention to do all that I can in support of this alliance. What is happening here will galvanize opposition to the reckless capture of our state government by private parasitic interests. Thank you and good day.
Right after the end of today's event, we got responses from both Summit and Navigator to the comments being made today by the Sierra Club. Summit said the Sierra Club, who's organizing today's event, is opposing carbon capture and storage projects because they want to see the elimination of ethanol, along with more than 44,000 Iowa jobs that the industry supports and the $4.5 billion it contributes to the state's gross domestic product every year. While the Sierra Club may bring a handful of people to the meeting in Des Moines, Summit Carbon Solutions will continue to focus their efforts on partnering with landowners to negotiate voluntary easements. Navigator CO2 put out the following response. They say the Navigator team prides itself on putting forward safe, reliable infrastructure that not only meets, but in many capacities exceeds regulatory standards. There's a long list of agencies and entities we'll be consulting with, ranging from the U.S. EPA, Army Corps of Engineers, and PHMSA, to each state's environmental and sitting agencies, to the local county boards of supervisors and zoning administrators. Additionally, each state's siting and review process is unique, and they'll be working with local regulators in each state to navigate those state-specific processes. Of course, the Iowa Utilities Board reminded everybody in attendance that this testimony today was not going to be entered in as evidence on any of the debate concerning the future of the carbon dioxide sequestration pipelines, and that they still have to file written opposition in the dockets that are available through the Utilities Board. You can find out more on their website. From downtown Des Moines, I'm DUstin Huffman on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. We'll have more information coming up on iowaagnet.com in the coming days. Let's take a look at your ag weather outlook. Well, mostly sunny skies prevailed across the center of the state today, and it felt pretty summer-like. Not too hot out there, not uncomfortable, but definitely warmer temperatures as we saw those temps in the low to mid 80s. What's in store for the next couple days? Let's see what the National Weather Service has to say. Well, as we mentioned, it was beautiful skies and beautiful conditions around most of the state, very summer-like today, where we saw highs in the mid-80s. Now, tonight it'll be mostly clear across the state, and we'll see temperatures dipping down to the low 60s. And tomorrow, sunny skies, a little warmer, and we're looking at highs anywhere from the low 80s to near 90. Taking a look at the affiliate weather map, we can see Cherokee will have sunny skies in 86. Shenandoah and Des Moines will be the hot spots, so sunny skies in 89. Waterloo will be sunny in 85. Albia sunny 87. And Clinton coming in sunny skies and 84 degrees for tomorrow. For more detailed forecasts in your area, tune to your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate. And that's been a check of the weather outlook. And just like that, we're at the end of today's show. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, and on our YouTube channel, where you can find previous episodes of AM PM. So don't forget to follow us and hit that like button and get the bell button so that way you can get notified anytime we post a new project. You can also find our free twice daily market podcasts online at iowaagnet.com or through Google, Amazon, Apple, Spotify, and Podbean. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm DUstin Huffman. For Riley Smith and Avery Haskell, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.